Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be continuing off with our Outpost series. So this will be the fourth video, and we're going to cover some of the loose ends that are present in our quest. So in the first video, we looked at interior and exterior design and how you can hook up your interior zones to the world. The second video, we talked about cluttering the insides of your zone. So we added things like tables, chairs, different items, as well as covering nav mesh and some special effects to give the space some lighting and some different smoke and particle effects. In the third video, we talked about quests. So we made a very simple quest with our character here, where we have to retrieve the sword and bring it back to them. So in this final video, we're going to look at some of the things that we didn't cover, but that are important to make the quest feel real and for it to not have some unintended effects for players. So to get started, the first problem that we have is that our actor can die. So if we go ahead and accept the quest, so our quest starts, and then the actor dies.
Time to end this little game. All right.
So the quest continues running, but when we pick up the sword, we'll have nobody to return it to. So obviously this can be a little bit jarring, a little bit strange. And then it just leaves you with an unfinished quest in your quest log, and that's no fun. So that's the first problem that we have. Now the second thing we're going to talk about is what happens if you grab the weapon before the quest starts. So we placed the sword in the world over here on the table, and it's still kind of available, even though the player has not met the quest giver yet. So if I take the sword, you can see now the quest starts, and I get a little objective that says return the sword to the warden. So on the surface of it, because this quest is worded pretty simply, this is not really an issue. You know, player is exploring, they pick up a sword or an item of some kind, and it gives them a quest that says return the warden's sword. That may not be so, you know, odd. You know, that may flow perfectly well, but sometimes that's not how you want your quest to function. So we're going to fix that as well. The next two things that we're going to look at are the player reward. So, of course, when I return the sword to the character, there's no reward. That, and we still have the warden's sword. So the warden has to take the sword from the player. The last thing that could be an issue is if the player drops the sword while the quest is running. So I'll just quickly reload that. This can obviously be no good, because if the player loses the item, then they can't complete the quest. Go ahead. Oh, almost activated my trap there. And drop the sword. And talk to our warden. So what you just actually saw happen there was that even though the player didn't have the sword in their inventory, the quest line still triggered. So what we need to do is add a condition function to our dialogue in the quest so that it runs a check to make sure that the player has this weapon in their inventory when they talk to the quest giver. That makes sense. So there's a handful of things there. We'll go through them one at a time in the creation kit. Alrighty, so I actually have the kit loaded up. We should be good to go. Yeah, and let's take a look here. So the first thing we're going to look at is what happens if the actor dies. Now, there's a couple ways in which you can handle this. You can ensure so that the character never dies, which is totally up to you. Or you can have the player fail the quest should the character die. So I'll go through both of those options. The first one is pretty simple. It's the one that Bethesda has sort of trended towards in their newer games. And you basically control that by checking this essential flag in the actor panel. So I click this, and then I click OK. This character, when they receive lethal damage, they'll just sort of kneel over, hunch over onto the ground until they can recover. So they're basically unkillable. So that's one way of doing it. But what I'll do is I'll show you another way. And to do that, we're going to have to add a script to our actor. So you're going to double click on your actor, scroll all the way over to the Scripts tab, right click and select Add Script. We're going to create a new script, okay, and give it a name, Outpost Character Death Script, something like that. And once it's listed, you're going to right click and use Edit Source. So we're going to use the event on death, which of course makes sense since we are going to trigger this event should the actor die. And we need to add one condition function. So basically what we want to have happen is for this event to only fire if the quest is still running. So if we don't add a condition function, anytime this actor dies, the quest will be set to the fail stage, which is not what we want. So from the player's perspective, they could have completed this quest a long time ago, and then at some point, if the warden dies, then they get a message on the screen that says, quest failed. So that's a little bit strange, and we don't really want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and write our script dot is completed. Then we want outpost quest dot set stage. We're going to call it stage 200 for now. We don't currently have a stage 200 in our quest, but we'll set that up in a moment. And then we have to set our property. Quest property outpost quest auto. And I missed and end if. There we go. Okay. So I'll try to go through this line by line. So first we have the type of event that we're using, in this case the death event. So we have the actor that dies, which is the actor which the script is attached to, in this case our outpost character. And then we have this other parameter which is called AK killer. So it's basically what it sounds like. You can write a condition that will trigger if only a specific actor kills this character. So if you wanted this event to only fire if the player kills our actor, then you would write if AK killer is equal to game.getPlayer. And then you could write basically the rest of your script, what you want to have happen after this condition is met. For now, we're just going to keep it the way that it is. So our only condition here is that if the outpost quest dot is completed, hopefully that makes sense, then we want something to happen. Where we are getting this exclamation mark from is it acts like a negative essentially. So this is not saying if the quest is completed, it's saying if the quest is not completed. It's just the way that it's used. It's just the way that this Papyrus scripting language works. So we want to make sure that we're not getting it completed. And then we write outpost quest dot set stage to our fail stage. We then have to end the if statement, so which is encapsulated in these 3 lines. And then at the end of it all, we have to end the event. And just like always, we have to set our properties. So once we have done this, I'm going to close. I'm going to find my property button here, and I want to make sure that I fill out the appropriate quest with the property that we created. So again, click on your script, click properties, you'll see your Outpost quest property here. You can either autofill if you've named it the same thing, or you can just go ahead and search through. It's just an alphabetical list of the quests in the game. Once you've got it set, click OK and OK, and then go ahead and save. Now, we still have to create stage 200 for our quest, which is essentially, oh, it's actually still here. It's already here. I guess I made it already. So this is stage 200, but I'll do it again so that you can see. So open up your quests, find your quest stages tab, right click in the index, select new, and give it a value of 200. Now all you have to do is go over to your stage 200, add a log entry, right click, select new. That's going to make these buttons available to you, and then you just check the fail quest box. That's about it. And then you can click OK and save. So that's how you can handle the death script, and you will see that again in game, how that functions. Now the next thing we have to do is talk about what happens when the player completes the quest. So the player needs to get a reward, and our character has to take the weapon out of our inventory. And what we're going to do is find our corresponding stage to our complete, which in this case is stage 30, and we're going to add some script into our papyrus fragment box. So let's start with a weapon. Okay. So if you've not created a papyrus fragment before, when you go to your scripts tab on the far tab in your quest window, you may not see any script listed under here. If that's the case, that's okay. All you have to do is type in something simple like set stage 5, which is how you control how your quest stages progress. So we're basically saying when you get to quest stage 30, go to quest stage 5. We don't really want to keep this right now, but you're going to do that and then hit compile. That's going to generate a script for you so that you can start adding some properties. So with that out of the way, we're going to go just like we did with our other script property. We're going to go add property, and this time we're going to find for the property type miscellaneous objective, and we're going to name it gold 001 and click OK. It should automatically fill this object for you. The reason we called it gold 001 is because that's what it's listed as in the creation kit. So as long as if you know exactly what the item is called, then it will autofill that property for you, which is kind of cool. So that's fine. Once we have our gold, we're going to click OK. And here we're going to start with game dot get player. We're going to do add item gold 001, comma, and let's just say 200, and then compile. So always have to hit compile after you've written your scripts. So game.getPlayer just refers to the player. Add item is what we would like to do, and the item we're adding is gold, and we want to add 200 of those items. So player's going to get 200 gold for completing the quest. So that takes care of our reward. Now the next thing we have to do is take the sword away from the player. And to do that, we have to make a reference to the sword, which is, as if you remember from the previous video, is an alias. Okay? And this alias was created so that we could have a target or a quest marker appear over the sword during the quest. So the way that you reference aliases is you start by always alias underscore like this. So we're going to start with alias underscore warden's sword dot get reference followed by double brackets. Now what you'll notice, what's a little tricky is that whenever you have a space in between, so you have a space in between the two words, and you've got an apostrophe here in between the for the S. What you have to do, oops, that's fine. What you have to do is look at the way that this word is listed in your properties. So go ahead, properties, and you'll find here it's written out kind of strange. Alias underscore warden underscore S underscore sword. So anytime you have a space or an apostrophe, you have to write it out using this underscore. If you don't do that, the editor won't know what you're talking about. So it's a little strange. It doesn't look correct, but this is the way we have to do it. So this is now our sword item. But what we have to do is we have to add this item to our quest character, not the game character. So we're going to start off by writing another alias underscore, I think it's the warden. Did I call it the warden? Yeah, underscore the underscore warden. So it's probably not best to write your list your aliases this way. It's probably easiest just to list it as one word, just because it's much easier to write out. So alias underscore the warden dot add item alias underscore warden sword dot get reference. And actually we have to add a get reference here. And hit compile. So we're starting off with the warden as an alias. We want to add an item to the warden, and this is the item that we want to add. And then when you're done, you just hit compile. Now because we are referring to a specific alias, a specific weapon, which is the sword that we've selected right here, it's going to automatically, when we add this item to the warden's inventory, it's going to automatically remove it from the player inventory. So that basically handles our reward and our taking weapon away. The next thing we will look at is what happens if the player drops the weapon. That's pretty straightforward. For this one, we're just going to make it so that the player cannot drop the weapon. And you do that by heading over to your alias tab, finding your sword, and once you've opened up this window, you're going to see this box here that says quest objective. That's basically going to make it so that if the player tries to drop the weapon, it's going to say you cannot drop a quest object. That's the easiest way by far of handling this. So that is now solved. Next thing we have to do, what if the player grabs the sword before the quest starts? Okay, what you can do is disable this object, and then when your quest starts you can enable the object. So I'll show you how you can do this. Double click on your sword and you're going to click the initially disabled box. This is going to make it so that the weapon is basically non-existent until it is enabled, and it has to be enabled using a script. Now this method does involve a few small steps, one of which is to go back into your sword quest alias, open it up, and find another box. Here it says quest object, which is the one we just ticked. Here we want to now cover the allow disabled box. Now if you don't have this box checked and you would try to run the game or run the quest would actually fail to start. And the reason is because if you don't allow it to be disabled, the quest won't be able to fill this alias. So it'll know that it has a sword as an alias, but it won't know which item to put in there because it's disabled. If you ever have a quest that is refusing to start, it's usually because one of your aliases is not filled out. So that could be because you forgot to select the Allow Disabled box. It could be because you just simply forgot to choose an alias. But always look at your aliases, make sure that they're filled, or else the quest won't run. So for here, make sure Allow Disabled is checked off. Now, of course, we need to enable the sword. So in order to do that, we're going to find a good stage to turn the sword on, essentially. And why don't we do that on stage 10? So again, we're going to start by referencing the sword. Alias warden s sword dot get reference double brackets, and then we're going to go dot enable double brackets and compile. So if you wrote your script correctly, you won't get an error message when you hit compile. It'll just kind of quietly do its thing. So again, we're just referencing the sword, and this is the way that you do that. And we're going to use the enable function as opposed to disable. So in this way, you could turn the object off rather than turning it on. So we'll start here. Okay, now the last thing we have to do is adjust one of our dialogue lines ever so slightly. So if you remember when I just started the video, this dialogue line here, I have your sword, is present all the time at stage 20 because those are the condition functions that we set up. So it has to be outpost quest equal to stage 20, and it's only going to be available for the actor listed as outpost character. So whether or not the player actually has the sword in their inventory, it's not going to matter, which obviously doesn't really make sense. So we need to add another condition function. And to do that, we're going to right-click as always, select New, and we're going to find Get Item Count. Once you've found your function, you're going to click on the invalid box, and we have to look for Warden Steel Sword, as you might imagine. Comparison is equal to 1. And here we just have to make sure that we run this condition function on the right actor. In this case, we want it to run on the player. So find your condition function, make sure you set the weapon equal to 1. If by the way, if you wrote a comparison something like this, less than 1, or let's try greater than 1. So if you left it like this, then the player would need to have, it would need to be stage 20, they would have to be talking to the right character, and they would have to have more than one sword in their inventory, which obviously is not going to work. So we just want it to be equal to 1. But you can do different things like that. So, you know, as an example, if you had a quest where the character needs to collect 10 bear pelts or something like that, then you would write your values like this. So get item count, and this, let's imagine this was bear pelt, greater than or equal to 10. And then this is the only way in which the player will be able to complete the quest. Which sort of makes sense. So there we go. We're going to click OK, and we're going to save. Now, we have to load the mod back into the game. Well, Outpost mod. So again, quick reminder, find the Outpost mod, right click. This is in your Skyrim data folder. You'll see all the other mods listed in here. Find the mod with the black icon next to it. Right click, use your WinRAR, and add to outpost.rar. Add to outpostmod.rar. This is the file we want to put into our modding tool. Oh, mod organizer is already running. Click our import, find outpost mod. If you already have a version installed, obviously just replace. Make sure you're checked off and start the game. Okay, so now we're going to see how this quest functions again. So we'll start from the top. On death script. So
Need something?
let's start the quest. And then let's have the character die.
Time to end this little game.
Hopefully he doesn't
Till
run
next
away.
time.
Oh, that's cool. Look at how he picked up the weapon from the table. That's pretty cool.
We are routed.
So there we can see our quest failed. Unfortunately, we were not able to protect the warden. And of course, the rest of our objectives are not going to trigger. So that's our death script. Let's start with our next one here. The sword, which is no longer enabled. So remember that we disabled it so that the player couldn't accidentally stumble upon it, which again, this is not always the best solution. You may want to have the quest be a little bit more dynamic and have the quest continue just sort of naturally, as if the player kind of stumbled upon the weapon in the first place. That's totally doable. Another thing you could do, perhaps, if you wanted to, instead of disabling the weapon, just kind of make it flow a little better, is to add, you know, a journal. So you can literally put a journal next to it, and you can write a little blurb about the character, so that when the player picks up the sword, the quest then points them toward the journal. They have to read the journal, at which point it gives them the objective to return the sword to the warden. So that could be a bit of more of a interesting way of connecting the dots for the player. But nonetheless, this is what we've decided to do for now. So we're going to go ahead and start our quest. So we are now on stage 10, and then the sword becomes activated. Now I'm going to pick up the sword, and I'm going to try to drop it. And it's going to say quest items cannot be removed from your inventory. So this kind of solves our losing the item condition. So let's go ahead and complete the quest.
I
have your sword. And there you can see the sword removed and gold added. Now, the last thing that I will test is the condition function that we added to the dialogue line. So I'm actually just going to reload so that we can do that. Now, because the sword is undroppable, this condition function, in a sense, is kind of redundant because the player will always have the sword as soon as they pick it up. But I'll show you what it might look like.
Yes?
If that wasn't the case. So the sword is activated. Now, if you remember, when we do pick up the sword, it's going to trigger quest stage 20. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go set stage. This, by the way, is the console command window, and it's opened up using the tilde key on your keyboard. Let's press this, and it's going to pause the game, and we're going to write set stage, just like we did in the Creation Kit. We're going to space, we're going to do the name of the quest. I think it's called Outpost Quest, and we're going to go 20. So this is going to set our Outpost Quest to stage 20. Now, because we forced this script, in a sense, through a console command, it's not actually going to update your quest journal and that kind of thing. You can just double check, SQV, Outpost Quest. So even though the player is essentially not updated, that the quest stage changed, you can see if you check your quest stage, it'll show you that the quest is running, its state is currently running, and its current stage 20. It's just because console commands are kind of a hack. They're not really the way you're supposed to play the game. So now that I'm at stage 20, I'm going to talk to our warden. And you can see that there's no dialogue line available. So I'm going to go back and pick up the sword. So now the objectives are coming up, but if I check my quest stage again, it's going to show you that we are at stage 20. So I'm going to talk to our character, and our sword is, our dialogue line is going to be available. It really would have been better had I changed it so that the sword was not a quest object. That way it would have been a lot clearer to see what's actually happening, but that is essentially how it works. So those are some fixes that you can use to make sure that the quest is not really too breakable, it flows, and that you don't run into any issues with not getting rewards and starting the quest early, that kind of thing. So that sort of concludes the 4 Outpost videos. You now should have a good idea of how you can build your own outpost, put quests in it, create characters, and then to basically try to finalize those quests by tying up some loose ends. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you guys in the next one.